Chiefs are ticking boxes and taking chances, and there's one big one out there. Can they max this offseason?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
You are Locked On Chiefs, your daily Kansas City Chiefs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Chiefs podcast, your daily show for the Chiefs on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in America. We appreciate you. We couldn't do it without you. Thanks for getting us here. And if you want to keep riding with us and you want to get ad-free audio and you want to get into the Discord that is just for our listeners, you can do that at the Everydayer Club at lockedonchiefs.supercast.com. Check that out and use that code free agency to get your deal through March 15th. We have a lot going on here, a lot of fall off here, obviously. Kenneth Walker made it to town, a little bit of odds and ends here of some of the moves that they're making. We're going to kind of overview what the possibilities still are in this offseason. Obviously, a league-wide phenomenon in the collapse of the Ravens and Raiders deal for Maxx Crosby. What does that mean? What are the possibilities and what happens next? How does it all affect the Chiefs? Because no matter what the outcome, it affects the Chiefs. And that's why we got to pay particular interest as to what goes on. Then we'll come back and talk about a couple of guys that are returning to the team, maybe some more that might be on their way back as free agency kind of hits this lull before the second wave takes over. And then what are we hoping happens next? That's coming up later in this show. We have a ton for you. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where you want to get over there and get ready for the matrix, the athletic matrix on all the athleticism data is coming out. End of the week, should be ready for download. You can go get that over at rogueapc.com. Check out the rest of my content on NFL 33 and RGR Football. Both of those are .coms. And you can get Chris's work on the cap and the business side and all the quarterback entries that you need to know about at KC Chiefs Corner. We've been doing this together for a very long time, hitting 10 years here soon. So perspective.
I'm just calling it 10 years at this point.
Are we? Okay. So,
well, yeah. I mean, we've been podcasting for more than 10 years. So not technically on this show, maybe, but pretty much on this show. And I have to laugh because you sit there and you talk about how we're getting ready to hit the second wave of free agency when technically speaking, it literally just opened.
Right. Yeah. But it's only official right now.
Right. And speaking of official, the one thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, I don't remember exactly when it happened, but that Maxx Crosby was going to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks and was getting a new contract from what I remember hearing. And all of a sudden, that's no longer the case. And Trey Hendrickson is going to be a Raven for basically almost the exact same amount of money that Crosby was going to get from the Ravens. Yet, supposedly, the Ravens were saying that they were trying to get both of them on the roster because they lost Linderbaum. I'm calling shenanigans.
Yeah, he makes me cry.
That whole situation, and I just want to be clear, like you can talk about what Ozzie Newsome did with that roster, what DeCosta has done with that roster. It's generally been pretty good.
Yeah,
they lost a lot of pieces. We'll see how they are going to deal with all the losses that they have to deal with. They lost Linderbaum, all of that. And the other side, really quick, before we continue on the Ravens, it does sound like the Raiders are actually going to get Crosby back, and maybe they'll still trade him. We'll see. But they're going to honor all the contracts that they signed while they thought his $30 million was gone. That's the crazy part to me. And
they have to.
So, well, they don't have to. They could have pulled out of some of those contracts. It's not a done deal until it's signed. So,
I guess that's true.
I mean, it's the same as one of those trades. It's you agree to terms, but until it's signed.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that is admirable because Costa makes me cry laughter about trying to say, "Oh, I was trying to get both these guys." That's total BS, and we all know that. That's okay.
You're but not it paying also makes Edge's $60 million a year, which is what you would have had to have done. Right. Sorry, $55 million a year, which is what you were going to be doing if you were going to have both those guys on your roster. There's no way.
That's
not
total.
with Lamar Jackson on your roster.
No. That's nuts, and that's just covering your butt. That's all it is. But the
It's
other
lying.
thing that makes me cry a little bit, yeah, fair, yeah, absolutely. The other thing that makes me cry though is that this could work out that Maxx Crosby stays in Vegas. I personally feel like it's a long shot. I don't think he'll play for them again. But if he does, I don't want him to be pissed off chasing Patrick Mahomes. That's the thing that bothers me. Is like we're going to get a super tuned up, angry Maxx Crosby if he has to stay in Vegas.
Yeah, and that's possible. I have a hard time believing that, he's pissed at Baltimore right now. I guarantee you he's pissed at Baltimore right now, and he's feeling like he is going to prove them wrong. He's going to prove the entire NFL wrong. But the reality is that give it a couple of days for reality to sink in. And is he going to feel any different about the Raiders that he felt when he was asking to be traded? I don't think so. Like, yeah, he still wants to prove Baltimore wrong, but I still don't think he wants to be there. And
you said a few things he can't take back is the problem.
Right, exactly. So I have a hard time believing that this is going to be a situation where they think that it's going to work out amicably. And I know the Raiders are still sitting out there saying, we still want 2 first-round picks. You're not getting 2 first-round picks. And another interesting tidbit in all of this is one of the other teams that was interested was the Cowboys, which I always was fascinated by because I don't understand where they'd possibly come up with the money to make a deal with Maxx Crosby work. But regardless of that, their doctor was one of the guys that was involved in looking at Crosby, and I can't imagine that if that's the case, this is going to work out for them. And you hear all these things about this story, and I will say this, like, I was loving it last night. I have never seen one of the NFL insiders, and yes, Tom Pelissero is an NFL insider. I've never seen him go off on a team. I don't know that I've ever seen any of them really go off on a team. He was pissed, and it was fun to watch how pissed he was. But it's just crazy because you hear stories about Crosby was there with his family while the Ravens were negotiating with Trey Hendrickson. Say what you want. Maybe. Crosby's back in the division, and it's not going to be fun for the Chiefs. But this is a situation where, to me, this is buyer's remorse on the Ravens' part, and didn't expect Hendrickson to be still sitting out there, and said, well, why trade 2 first-round picks? We can just get this guy and spend the money.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fallback position. Let's be real. They were never taking him over Maxx Crosby. So I think they just got panicked in that, we might not have him to start the season. This knee thing is real. I don't think it's going to threaten his career. I mean, there's always a possibility, but I think it just means they weren't going to get a full season out of him, at least in their estimation, and they panicked.
But that's also the problem with the Raiders part of the scenario is that now you have to wonder, are teams going to even be willing to trade anything? And can you even make any kind of agreement with any team until they have the chance to actually look at the knee?
I got pick 74 for you there, SpyTech. No problem.
Yeah, that would be fun. Could you imagine Crosby and Mahomes on the same team with Chris Jones?
Max says and does some things that are a little bit outlandish. He's a little over the top for me. But the fact that his play on the field makes me angry when I watch it is a good sign.
Well, here's the other side of this. And this is really, I think, the other thing that the Ravens had to have been considering. And any team that would trade for Maxx Crosby has to consider at this point. He's 29 years old.
Yep.
He is more likely than not going to start having some injuries. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be nagging injuries, but the other side of it is you look at his production in the NFL, and I'm not saying he's not going to be good. He will still be good. But part of the reason he was so good was because he never came off the field. Take that into consideration. Think about how many snaps he was getting that most DNs aren't going to get. He can't continue to do that as he gets older. Right. And to be fair, the other side of it is the Raiders shouldn't have had him be doing that. I don't care if he doesn't want to come off the field. You need to start taking care of your players and taking care of your investment. Yeah, you want him on the field, but you don't want to be in a situation like his overuse is likely what led to his injury, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. He had back-to-back 1,000 snap seasons in 22 and 23.
He never came off the field.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he put up nearly 300 pressures between 21 and 23 and then fell off significantly, half that, 54 and 53 in the last 2 seasons each. Now he's still productive. He's got more pressures than he's got tackles. So he's still out there. But the injury now, one kind of starts that first kind of, oh, we can see the clip from here. So what happens next, we'll keep you updated. But the Chiefs have a Walker in their midst. He made it to town, and they're doing a couple things with their restricted rights free agents. We're going to cover that and get down to who should be here, who's taking kick returns, Nico Remigio. Next. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to the late-night West Coast action shootouts, there's always action on the board, and you can get in there. And now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with college basketball parlay profit boost right here. You can build in any college hoops parlay you want, from rivalry games to ranked matchups, whatever fits your need or what you're reading in there. Mix up the spreads, the totals, the player props, match anything that you want. That slate is how it's playing out. Be safe, be bold, ride with the team that you're following, your alma mater. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. It's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. There's a lot to it. The news is the news. Let's start with Kenneth Walker. Made it to town, the whole private jet and all that kind of stuff.
Right as we were getting ready to kick off the show, he just they got video of him coming into town. So,
and I think that's exciting. When you make a splash like this, I remember when Tyrann Mathieu got signed and he came in and had his presser, and you could just tell the energy he was bringing. So I know a presser is not really like the thing that determines anything, but I am eager to see what Ken Walker looks like as he comes into town. What his persona is, what his juice is, without even getting on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what he is going to do. I actually looked earlier today, and this is before free agency was official, so I figured it wouldn't be there, just to see if they had his jersey out there, because I'm curious, and it's not out there yet. I would imagine once he gets announced, it'll be out there, but it's going to be fun. I mean, he is going to be in Kansas City. They've agreed to the deal. Now, the interesting thing about this, and I actually said this, I said this on X earlier, the interesting thing to me about Walker, and not only Walker, but actually really Gilman and Tyquan Thornton, like, you've heard what the deals are, but you realize we haven't had anything announced yet. Like, we haven't got the details of those deals yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the details about Tonga, but we don't have the details about the other ones. So you have to wonder, are these deals going to end up being what they have been advertised to be? Yeah, he's going to get $28 million when we're talking about Walker, but how's the structure set up? What's his cap number?
What's his cap number? Yeah.
Right. What's his cap number in 26? What's his cap number in 27? What's his cap number in 28? I mean, all of that is a question right now, and we know nothing other than what the overall deal is.
Right. Yeah. Just the broad strokes, the summary. We need to know the details to know what they can still be capable of doing here. We're going to talk about other options, next steps, other guys on free agency that we can talk about in a little bit. But in order to get there, we have to recognize that they made a couple of moves with Matt Araiza and Nico Remigio as ERFAs, which is, you can explain the details of it, but is very, very simple, straightforward deals.
Yeah, so the EFRAs is exclusive rights free agents. It's if you have less than 4 years, if you have less than 3 years in the league, you are a exclusive rights free agent. You can only sign back with the team that you are on, and I believe that number is around $1.075 million for exclusive rights free agents for guys that have, I think, 2 years experiences, where both of those guys are. You also have some restricted rights free agents, which means you have 3 seasons or more, you have 3 seasons that you've been in the NFL. And then you have unrestricted free agents, which are 4 seasons. So at this point, it's Araiza and Remigio are the only 2 guys that they offered any kind of designation, any kind of contract to that has a designation. The other ones that they could have, and we knew they weren't going to, like a Caliendo specifically, it would have been $3.5 million to bring Caliendo back. At least $3.5 million for right of first refusal. Could have been more expensive if they put a different round tender on him, but they chose not to, give any of their other guys that designation. And so Eric Scott's a free agent. Keontae Ingram was a restricted rights free agent. He's a free agent now. And then I think that's it other than Caliendo on that list. So, and everybody else that was an unrestricted free agent is a free agent at this point because the transaction wire just came through and everybody else was on it other than Araiza and Remigio, which we actually heard about Remigio yesterday. And I think both of these are smart moves. It's not a guarantee contract. It's less than $1.1 million. Like there's no risk. And quite frankly, like Araiza, I thought actually punted better. And I know nobody wants to talk about special teams and the punter. I thought he did better in 26 than he did in 25. So to me, this is moving in the right direction. It's not.
Yeah, he didn't have anything that stood out in a negative way. I agree with you there.
Right. And you're talking about like basically a vet min deal, like less than a vet min deal. Like you're not going to do any better other than maybe going out and drafting somebody. And then you're spending a draft pick and you're getting a savings of a couple $100,000 in a draft pick or an undrafted free agent, giving him some kind of guarantee money. Like it's still possible they replace Araiza this year. It's possible they replaced Remigio. They could do both. It's not going to cost them anything. These were both moves that they should do. Yeah. But it does tell me when you look, Eric Scott didn't get any kind of designation and didn't get brought back. They are looking at some of these guys and saying, okay, yeah, that doesn't fit what we want to do on our roster anymore. And they're moving on. Keontae Ingram's another one. So people that they've had here for a couple of years that they decided, no, we're good.
Yeah, and I think the two things are not mutually exclusive. This is low risk. This is good reward, in my opinion. And if it doesn't work out with either of them, particularly with Remigio, Araiza is going to be here. It's not really much of a question. You need to bring in some competition to push him a little bit for his performance in camp. But nobody's out kicking that guy. So as long as he is a straight and narrow off the field, then we're okay. But for Remigio, you bring him in. If he wins a job, he wins a job. If he doesn't, it's no skin off your nose because nothing's guaranteed. So it's simple and straightforward. I'm glad they didn't bring back Caliendo because I don't think he's the caliber player that needs to be on this roster. I think they need to improve. And that means if they have to go out and either in the draft or maybe in the second phase, and I call them waves in the beginning before the draft, and second phase is guys that get picked up after the draft. If they have to bring in another backup interior lineman, okay, fine. And maybe it is him. I don't know. But the goal is to upgrade from that player.
Well, the other side of it with Caliendo is like they didn't feel like a $3.5 million contract was worth it for Caliendo. Like that's the reality of the situation because that's all they could have done with a restricted free agent. Technically speaking, I believe they can bring him back at a very minimum deal for maybe $1.5 million or less if they really want Caliendo back, and maybe he's willing to come back and play for that. I mean, he's got starting reps in the NFL. And it's interesting to me because I'm not saying that there should be a huge – well, actually, now I think about it, I'm not saying that there should be a huge guess that he is going – or a huge market for him, but he's got starting reps. And for us to hear nothing about him getting any kind of sniff at least tells me that more than – and everybody knew they weren't bringing him back because they said they weren't tendering him. So for nobody to be even sniffing and giving him anything – tells me that maybe he ends up back in Kansas City on a cheap deal. And I know there's going to be people that don't like that, but the reality is offensive linemen are extremely hard to find. And I know you don't like him being here. I didn't love it either as him as a starter, but it's better than not having anything. And who knows what you're going to get done in the draft at this point. Yeah. And if you can find somebody that's better.
And that's the whole thing, is find somebody better. Well, there's somebody out there that could be the next person to make this team better. And he happens to be somebody I named my fantasy team after last year. It's something and destroy. I'll tell you his name next. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out your forms, find all of my expenses on the pod and everything that goes into producing all of these shows, you can meet with a local tax expert and a person, connect online, and you're in business. For a limited time, all you have to do is to get connected and have your taxes done by a local pro expert for just $150. All in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take your taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
For clarity, really quick, I was able to verify it is 1.075, so less than 1.1 million for both of those guys.
Yeah, no risk. No problem at all. Now, there are other players that are becoming either cap casualties or free agent casualties after somebody is brought in to replace them or added to their room. There are some other situations out there as well that make some creative possibilities here. And one that I want to bring up and get your take on is tied to a very personal story of mine. Back in the day when I was a young high schooler, thanks to my buddy Mike, who was working security down at the King Dome in Seattle, I got to meet James Hetfield and the guys from Metallica back when I was like 17 years old. It was a great time. I saw a great show, and my favorite song was one of their encores, right? So when last year I joined a new league with a friend of mine, and I needed a new name, and they all do this. You do this too, right? You name players in your fantasy teams, right? Yeah. So I had to take my favorite Metallica song, and I called my new team Aiyuk and Destroy. And now he's available or soon to be released, as we understand. A guy that's gone through an injury, that's gone through some quarrelsome issues with his franchise. A guy that some people don't want in their locker room. I kind of feel that it's surroundings, and I'd much rather take a chance on him than a Tyreek right now, given the two of them. So if they had to come in and take a long shot on somebody, a 1-year prove-it deal, would you have any interest? Am I just being nostalgic here?
I don't think that I would have interest, but I'm not going to be surprised if he's willing to do a prove-it deal if the Chiefs would be interested. The question is what is it going to cost him? I mean, it'd really have to be a prove-it deal, and it'd have to be something that would be heavily incentivized. So, I mean, it's possible at that point, if you can get him for something like that, then maybe it makes sense. But is he going to be willing to spend that, or is he going to be willing to play for that? That's the question.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. If healed, he is certainly a weapon that would fit into this offense next to Rashee Rice and Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy. Doesn't mean it's a perfect fit, but there are other things going on out there. So do you have a favorite move you'd like?
No, but I will say really quick, I was just checking. He didn't play at all in 2025. I was trying to verify that. Because of that, giving him an incentive-based deal would be not likely to be earned. So, I mean, if he could come in and you give him like bonuses of, $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or whatever for hitting different catch marks and yards and touchdowns, I mean, you could make a pretty decent deal, but it's basically, it's almost kind of like using a void year in a way, because you're basically borrowing money from 2027. But it's one of those things that you can do. So I still don't know that I would do the deal. I don't know. There's so many unknowns about the injury, and I will say this though. If there's a place where he could probably be okay with the, I don't know if you call it attitude or his issues with his team, I think Kansas City probably has a strong enough locker room where it would be okay. But especially with a guy like Kenneth Walker, who I think is going to come in and kind of fit in and is not going to take, after winning Super Bowl MVP, he's not going to come in and take somebody coming in and messing up the locker room and the atmosphere. Like, that's one of the other reasons that I think the Chiefs were good getting him, is they feel like he can fit in here. and he's going to be somebody that's going to lead because of who he is and what he's done in the NFL already. So I'm not going to be shocked if the Chiefs would take a flyer if Aiyuk is willing to do it, but I would think somebody else is going to be willing to offer him more guaranteed money. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Anybody else out there that you're intrigued as we get down to this portion? John Mechie just signed within the last hour in Carolina. I thought he might be an option.
Yeah, I'm really going to be curious just to see. I don't know that the Chiefs are going to be doing anything at this point to really add to their roster. Without knowing how these things have played out, it's really hard for me to know whether or not they have a lot of cap space. And granted, cap space is something that they can adjust. But, I don't know. It seems like it's going to be one of those things where they're probably mostly done until you start seeing other guys either getting released or, the other thing that the Chiefs may be looking at and saying, okay, is there anybody out there that we didn't want to go sign? Unless you're going to be giving like 1 year prove it deals at this point, which is going to cost you a lot of money, is there going to be somebody that's going to be willing that you're going to want to go out there and get? Like, you can get some of these backup type guys, but then you also look at it right now, they're in a situation where they should get a comp pick.
The compensatory picks make a big difference, and you don't want to go mess up the formula at this point that we don't know what it is. So you're kind of driving blind into the ocean at this point so that you can maintain what right now I think is a 4th and a 7th projected at this point when you're doing all the tick marks and all that stuff. So I think that's worth preserving. You can wait a little bit, and I think let's see what occurs if anybody else gets signed away that can maybe add to that formula. But right now, I think it's probably going to be quiet for a minute. We're going to get to know Ken Walker, at least initially, and then we'll have the next thing come on. Get ready for the draft. I've got the matrix just about ready to go. It will be up on rogueapc.com. And for you guys, you get that code LOC that will help you. Go check that out, rogueapc.com, to get the athletic matrix and get ready for this draft. We're going to have more for you as we close up the week and get ready for next week. A lot coming at you. We appreciate you guys being with us here, and use that code free agency. Another couple of days is all you got. And if you want to get into the Everydayer Club, that's going to give you a nice chunk there. We appreciate you giving it a shot and being with us day in, day out, all over the place. Thanks for being here today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.